Tip top trippers, my name is Donato and welcome to my latest video, which is a new series that I'll be getting back to basics, which I think will go with the topic of Friday fundamentals. And this is part one, where I'll be talking about sleep, hydration, nutrition. So without further ado, let's go. But before I go into the details of this video and what it's all about, because I know a lot of you don't really need to watch this video. I'm not going to talk about any rocket science or anything like that, but what I've learned over the past 7 years whilst I've been running, so I haven't been running that long, but it seems that a lot of people, not us maybe, but are missing some of the basics. And I'd love to hear from you in terms of your experiences, changes and realizations that maybe you have, not just in running but in life. I'd love to hear from you from watching this video in the comments below if we can add to this, because it's more of a group thing, not just me talking about my experiences and how we can help. But in addition to that, to help spread the joy of running, I'd be really grateful if you can give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so, because that will help spread the word of this wonderful joy of running, and maybe we can help others do the same. Thank you. Let's get to the detail. Yes guys, as I was saying, maybe for a lot of you watching this, certainly long-term subscribers, I know a lot of you are already doing this and don't really need to get back to basics, Friday fundamentals, whatever. But there may be some people, and I've heard often that sometimes some people don't want to be told what they need to hear. They only want to hear what they want to hear. Does that make sense? So maybe you might know some people who need some help in some aspects, and you can share them this video in a sort of indirect way to say, hey, maybe we need to look at some of these basics. And a lot of it, in terms of the history, why am I doing this? Why am I sharing this with you? And I'm not doing this as a know-it-all or whatever. It's just from my own experiences and what I've done. I briefly mentioned I've been running only for about 7 years. I took up running in my mid-50s, but I've gone from charity runner to qualified as England Marathon Masters now for 2 years in a row. But within 6 months of doing my first marathon, it was 6 months. So I'd done my first marathon at Brighton. 6 months later, I ran my second marathon at Frankfurt, and from what I learned, realised applying a lot of the basics, I qualified for 4 of the marathon majors, which included New York City, London, Chicago and the prestigious Boston Marathon, which I know maybe a lot of you watching would love to qualify for Boston Marathon. And also I'm now a England athletics coach, so I've learnt a lot. And before I even running, I had over 30 years experience of running my own businesses and learning lots of things. And one of those things, when I was at college and had applied through, is I'd studied psychology, and one of the things that came up was Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, some of you may have heard of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a bit like a pyramid where you have to do the foundations first and then you can slowly build up. And it's the same with this, where I've looked at the basics, and maybe we can have the running hierarchy of needs. So Guru's running hierarchy of needs, hey? Maybe leave that in the comments below, some suggestions of what we could call this. But unless we do the foundations first, trying to build on that doesn't work. Well, it could, but it sort of falls apart as we go through. So we live in a very much a capitalist corporate type world now, where we're pummeled every day with products, services that can allegedly help us to be better runners. And I'm not saying that they're not, but before we even spend that money on those new sunglasses, before we spend the money on those £300 shoes that give us that extra 4%, before we spend however many thousands of pounds on new bikes, new gear, new everything, new watches. I mean, some of the Garmin watches, $1,000. Really? Do we need all that to help us to be better runners? So that's a bit of a background, but what are the fundamentals for this part one that we need to do? Oh, it's a beautiful day, isn't it? I did mention at the beginning of the video the 3 things for this part one of Friday fundamentals: sleep, hydration, nutrition, food. And it is literally in that order, and that applies not just for us to be better runners, but to be better people. Because if we don't get those 3 things right, how can we build on that And if I look at the first one, sleep is essential, but often, and I know there might be some people watching who may have some difficulty with their sleep patterns and so on, and it's understandable. I've had issues as well, and sometimes we look at doing things like running or whatever that can solve the issue of sleep, but it's actually the other way around. We need to sort our sleep patterns out that can help us to run better. We hear all sorts of things of how many hours sleep we need. I'm not of that type theory, you know, where people say you need 7 to 9 hours, 10 hours, whatever. I don't buy that totally, because back in the day, in the 80s, the Prime Minister at the time, Margaret Thatcher, was renowned, you know, leading the country with just 4 hours sleep a day. 4 hours, yeah, and she was able to run the country. So long hours, I don't think is that. Yes, it helps, and if you can sleep for 8, 9, 10 hours, fantastic. I'm not here to give you the solutions of how you can do that. There's a whole myriad of topics, and I'll leave some links in the description of ways that you can help and so on and so forth. But you know, things like a comfortable bed, darkened room, getting into a pattern, you know, having a hot bath before. It's a bit like, for those of you who've had children, you know, and I've gone through this, is getting the children into a pattern to get to sleep. And it's the same sort of thing for us as adults, is getting into that pattern. We solve the sleep issue, then we can move on to the next thing, which is hydration, water. Yeah, hydration, water. As I sit here by the River Severn, for me, my routine starts first thing in the morning. As soon as I wake up, I get myself a mug of warm water with lemon or honey, something to get into my system, because I've been sleeping for X hours and I will be waking up dehydrated. So I need to get some hydration into my system, get the basics going and get my body moving, fluid and so on. And often, if I'm going for an early morning run, I need some hydration water to go in. So for me, first thing I start the day is to get water in. How much we drink a day, again, there's all sorts of schools of thought, and I'll leave some links below of what can help with hydration. But it's essential. You know, people talk about 2 litres a day, 3 litres, but we can overhydrate, yeah. And again, like with sleep, we don't want to be stressing over, have I drunk enough of this, drunk enough of that? But I just find regular warm water with lemon or honey really helps me throughout the day. I tend to steer away from caffeinated drinks, so coffee, tea, that type of stuff, certainly not in high volume. I'll have cups of tea, cups of coffee, but I know some people where they get through maybe 10, 12 cups of coffee a day, and that is really, because caffeine does dehydrate us. So getting the basics of remaining hydrated. Again, there are products out there that can help with hydration, but really just water, simple water. We don't need electrolytes or anything like that. You know, it's just get the water into our system and keep it sensible. Makes sense? Which then leads us, if we've got second one done, so we've done the sleep, we've done the hydration, we get on to the third one, which is eating. Yeah, food, nutrition. Let's go. There is a famous quote, is it from Shakespeare? If music be the food of love, play on. Well, music may not be the food that we need. I'm talking about real food, nutrition, what we eat. Again, there'll be a lot of you're doing the basics. It's having a balanced meal. I see so much now on social media where they talk about cutting this out, cutting that out, adding this, adding that. And really, when we take up running or with anything, is just stick to what we know, eat what we enjoy, and keep it balanced, you know, with, you know, your carbs, your proteins, pizza, burgers, whatever. You know, I don't stress about my food. You probably see that for me, yes, a lot of it is mainly carbs, pasta, pizza and so on. But I do enjoy my, what do I enjoy? My early morning bit of toast. I have a yogurt, bananas, those types of things, and vegetables. I love broccoli. I could eat a whole bowl of broccoli, but that would be a bit too much, because as we know, and as I've found to my detriments, because I've made mistakes in this, where too much of a good thing is not good for us. So keeping it balanced, so just a balanced diet throughout the day. 3 meals a day, some people say 2 meals. You know, I'm not really into this fasting, but again, there's sorts of fads and diets out there, and I say just keep it simple, keep it basic, and keep the balanced meal. So before we even need to get started with the running, we need to have that balanced, yeah? So as with the Maslow hierarchy, and we now have the running hierarchy of needs, or I would say life really, for these first three: sleep, hydration, nutrition. The three essentials before we even think about getting started in running, we need to get right. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below, as I said, what you've learned, changes, realizations. Have you realized something that you needed to do and then you've gone ahead and done it? I'd love to hear from you on that. So that's the first part of the Friday Fundamentals. I hope you enjoyed it, found it useful in some way. If you have, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share it with your friends. I've certainly enjoyed putting this together and walking along here, the beautiful River Severn here in Worcester. And for the next part 2 of Friday Fundamentals, we'll be getting started in running. What do we need to look at? What are the basics, getting back to basics, that we need to do to get started in running? And I hope you find this useful, and let's continue onwards and upwards and sharing the joy of running. Love you all. Bye bye bye. I know, I've just been to the Church of the Runners. Hey, as I say, it's all about balanced meals, yeah?